What is up? I'm Miguel Antonio, and you are listening to the Live and Create podcast. It's where I interview artists and entrepreneurs about what it means to live a great life and create great things. And before we jump into the podcast, I'd love for you to check out my band, Run With It. Here's a clip from our song, Night Watch.
Late nights, losing time, the cars, the trains, the flashing lights, fade right in the line. When they let me in, I dance all night. Just one taste, gonna kill the pain. Hey, 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 just one taste. Just one taste, all it's gonna take. Hey, 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 just one taste. I'm on the night watch, baby, run till the sun. I'm on the night watch, baby, run until the sun comes up.
Like what you heard, make sure you check us out at Run With It Band, at Run With It Band, everywhere you follow people at, or go to runwithitband.net. It'll take you to all the different links you want to go to, and there'll be a little button you can click for booking information. Now for today's podcast.
The Live and Create podcast.
Oh, there it goes. We are live. What's going on?
Dude, we do a lot of things together. We've gone all over the place together. And look at us. We're still going. We're still doing things.
We're still rocking it. After all these, how many years has this been?
I think we met, was it 2014?
2014. Oh,
so we're at a decade.
Oh,
look at us.
Man. Run With It's been around for a decade.
That's crazy.
No,
man.
It's been longer than a decade. Run With It's been around. I've been in Run With It for a decade.
That was Run With It 2.0 when you joined. We're on Run With It 4.8 now. Is that what we're calling it? Something like that.
I think so.
As we continue to move forward, man. But now you are hustling and you're all over the place. So obviously running with Run With It. That's so lame that I even said that. I apologize.
No, it worked.
Everybody.
You can make it work.
But you're also playing with Cat King, playing with Twice on Sundays. You're a busy dude, sitting in with a lot of other people as well. I'm curious, just to start out, working with all these different groups, each one has its own little, niche in the world. Mm-hmm. What's one of the biggest things you feel like you're learning as you play in these multiple groups and get to experience like the marketing end and get to experience the performance and the practicing end with all these different groups and different leaders?
One thing I'm learning with being in multiple groups is something valuable is the synergy between you and the people you're working with. And whenever you find the right people that you lock in with, it's a great experience. It's a learning experience. It's also a learning experience when you don't have people that you lock in with too well. But as far as if your goal is to like aim and move forward effectively, then one valuable thing I think is the synergy within the group, how people come together and work together and they make decisions together.
Right.
That's super valuable. And also, I mean, you definitely have to, when you're a part of multiple groups in the music space, I think flexibility and time management are, you have to really play with those. You have to become very, open and loose, but also just like, you gotta find like what's going to help you kind of stay on track, because it's not like a normal job situation where things are so fixed. Things change, things shift so many times from week to week. And so you have to be organized and also like very like willing to move and shift things around. So those skills are very important. But
that flexibility. That's what's so weird about this whole industry is every day looks drastically different. Like even yesterday, my day went from 5 a.m. till like damn near midnight. And today will go about the same, but it looks completely different. I'm doing really like drastically different things from what I did yesterday. And sometimes that gets a little crazy. Sometimes I just want like, can I just have something the same day after day?
Yeah,
But it's not the reality, you know?
I feel like there's definitely a trade off because I feel so grateful to be in this space and that you learn so much. But I think that's also part of the trade off is in the music arena, the flexibility is so valuable. It's such a valuable skill to have patience
Yeah.
and just like a willingness to be like taught and learn and understand that like, you're a person who doesn't know everything, and there are also so many people who have achieved successful results doing things a specific way. So being able to have patience and exchange and work with others well and calmly and give space to like learn people's processes is that's something you definitely start to develop. And
Yeah.
it's better to focus on developing those things as well because it's going to help you in the long run.
Well, and those things, there's almost three things in there. You talked about the synergy, talked about the flexibility. Well, I guess two things. I think the flexibility is just multi-layered, but headed back to the synergy though, I'm curious for you, what do you, because I know you've been part of other projects as well. Sometimes you bounce in and out different projects, even though you have your main projects. What is it that you're looking for, like personally, to where you're going to walk away and feel like, oh, that was synergistic, or no, that was not the synergy I was looking for. I don't want to go back. What are some key things you're looking for?
Yeah, it took me, I guess, a while to figure out, but some key things I guess I'm looking for is satisfaction. How do you feel amongst the group of people that you're spending time with and moving forward with every step of the way? Like, is it enjoyable just like, working with these people and doing things and communicating, and also just like whenever you go out, do you feel like the things you're doing like, represent you well or accomplishing what you're going for? So like, I guess I'm looking for our ability to work well together and also go out and be able to like hit the marks that we're trying to hit. And
Right.
yeah, those two things for sure. But yeah, you just want to be able to enjoy. You want to see that there's growth, and you also want to have room to create and have a voice and be able to build something. So I think those are valuable things. And
Yeah.
I personally enjoy those things whenever I'm a part of a group and looking for different crews to work with, or I'm being invited into something. So yeah, that's what I would say.
That is one thing that I think over the years, now that we figured out, we've known each other for a decade. That's one thing I have noticed just in observing. It's like when you join a group, after about 6 months to a year of you working with another group, I can start seeing like online, I could see like, oh, I could see Daniel Cole's influence there. It's not like you take I'm not saying that you come in and take over, but I can tell like you're coming in and offering up your expertise in marketing and branding, those pieces, and helping bolster up whatever it is the project you're working on. I can just see it, which is really cool, because I know some artists, which is fine too. There's some artists who just want to jump in a band, play, go home, and they're good to go. Just call me when the next gig is ready. I think that is a unique thing about what you offer as a drummer. It's been really cool to see. I saw it obviously and run with it, but then watching you step into Cat King's band, step into Twice on Sunday and other projects, I've seen that grow and come alive too.
I try and help out where I can, put some puzzle pieces where I feel like they might work.
Right.
But yeah, I definitely think that part for me is a strength, and I think it's valuable. I learned a phrase that really, helped me with the marketing pieces, learning that marketing is just the art of connecting with people. And outside of like being in these bands, I've just been able to, establish a lot of relationships and sustain a lot of relationships. And I feel like I'm learning how these things are transferring over to the music side and how to, I guess, bring them together and use them to kind of help us take another step forward. So yeah, just the art of connecting with people just thinking about it like that, and what that means and what that authentically looks like for whatever individual we're trying to apply it to or group.
Right. I love that because really when you think about what we're doing, like writing a song is the art of connecting with people, like putting together a live show is that piece. And to see marketing instead of this gross, like I'm trying to finagle somebody or manipulate somebody, it's an extension of that
Yeah.
connecting with other people. I think it's that thinking of it that way, I think makes it more free. That we just had a guest recently where I think a clip went out where he talked about that. It's like at the end of every like, every comment, every view is a real human being. Like it's a real person watching and engaging with the content that you're putting out there. And
Yeah.
I think that's a cool perspective.
Hopefully it's a real human being, not a bot. Everybody, hopefully.
That's true. Yeah, you gotta be honest. There is. I remember actually there was someone who saw that clip and they were like, "Well, like 50% is like bots or something." I was like, "Come on, man. There's some real people too. Okay, there's real people.
Don't ruin the moment."
But you can tell the bots. You can go look in there and you're like, "Okay, that one's a bot." I noticed Instagram, especially in stories, it's starting to like cycle out potential bots. So it'll basically put like things that are alerted as a bot in like the special little folder essentially that you can click and go in. And most of the time it's pretty correct. Every once in a while it'll get someone who I actually know personally that for some reason they put them in the bot category. I don't know why. So I'll click them back in.
Yeah, and maybe that's because there are people who kind of repeat a specific behavior so many times in the system is like, oh, that's bot behavior.
they're like, no way, run with it's this interesting. You couldn't have watched every single story for a week. You're a bot. And somehow someone found us that interesting.
Yeah. But I think that whole situation, I see comments sometime where people talk about like the use and value of bots, which I understand as well, but also I think the integrity of just like your position and your trajectory is so important. And you don't we already are, but I don't think that we want to continue distorting where it is we are in our career. Like we don't really want to distort the numbers. We don't want to distort like who's supporting us, because those things don't actually overall help the long-term goal of sustaining, a healthy system and like an ecosystem to work in within this industry or any industry. You don't want to really distort the numbers. And so
it honestly would be better to have lower numbers and have like surprise engagement than higher numbers and no one cares, right?
Yeah, because then people get to these events and shows and wonder why is there like it's not reflecting why are people not showing up, why are they not supporting? And I think social media has like given the space and opportunity, to kind of curate yourself and present yourself how you want it, but we're seeing how how just certain things it's not the move anymore. It's not. We've learned. We've learned.
Yeah, the world is learning. That's for sure. Well, I know for us, so Run With It ending, we come back like 2 years later, we start things back up. Social media was a huge piece for us. But the landscape I felt like coming back in just 2 years out of the game, if you will, I felt like the whole social media landscape just changed. Like the game completely changed. The principles I feel like are still the same. The things we've talked about, even this idea of truly connecting with real fans and investing and giving, like those kind of things. But the execution has just changed so drastically.
Yeah. I think people adapt, and they are also adapting quicker to how, we all act on social media, and people really get a weird type of way when they feel marketed to, and so much feels marketed to people. They just want to feel like a real connection. They want to feel like this person's genuinely interested in all. And it's tough for bands because we want to genuinely connect with people, and we want to have like a supportive community, but also you have to kind of go out and let people know you're here, and that effort can feel off, inauthentic to a lot of people, depending on like how far they go with it. We want people to know about us, but we don't want to do all this to get it out there, because then it feels like too much. You want it to just kind of like spread. And so people just got to find a balance for them. But I think if people can just spend a little more time brainstorming, being clever, and finding ways in their real life to take that and talk about it, be excited in front of other people, I think things will start to work better.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's like, you're putting this music out there. You should aim to create something where you can't help but to tell people. You should aim to create something where it's like you're like almost have that kid energy where you're like, yo, look at what I just did. And if you're not feeling that way, maybe you should keep making stuff until you find something where you feel like you can't help but share it.
Right.
And then that genuine energy will spread and go across as you continue to do that.
Well, and in that I hear just the authenticity of it, to where you feel really good about what you're doing. You authentically are connecting with the audience. You're authentically sharing who you are, And I think that's huge. And it's funny to me, it seems like the more authentic posts are even beyond like the following a trend type thing, where it's like, oh, everyone's doing this little trend, let's do this trend. It almost seems like when those things get so popular, they almost tilt on cringe. Like to where it's like people are like, okay, I've already seen this like 75 times. Like when your dentist is doing some TikTok trend, you're like, okay, maybe the band shouldn't be doing that TikTok trend anymore, but then the authentic posts seem to perform better. And I was even thinking about, we had 2 posts where like one day I shared like a music video we had, put a lot of time and energy into, a clip from it. And then I also just responded to somebody's comment. Like, I think it was Friendly Thieves commented on something. And I just responded real quick in my studio, like some kind of joke. And that was it. It was like 4 seconds long, but it was just me in my studio. That response video did better than the thing we spent hours on and like clipped out on the same day. It was such a stark contrast. It doesn't mean don't do those videos, and there's a myriad of reasons why it may or may not have worked, but it has seemed to me like whenever there's an authentic connection, an authentic opening up, that people are jumping on board, and they want to connect with it.
I think there's something about well, I think just it's pointing and it's showing something, it's telling us something. That's like people, like to be a part of something. That's why, trends work. It's like line dancing. A lot of, if you play like a song that's like a line dancing song, in like 9 out of 10 times, a majority of people are going to get up. You're going to have a lot of people, or you're going to have people get up because people want to be a part of like things, and they want to be a part of something that's fun and simple and stuff like that. So I think it's like you just kind of transfer that over into the band space as well. So people want to be a part of like fun and simple things, but when it gets like it's like people get exhausted as well. You can't like do line dances all the time. You got to switch it up and do something different. So when you get something something unique and interesting to engage with, I think that's when you see the spikes come. It's like that's when you see the spikes go up.
Well, and it is interesting that people in personal relationships, right? Often, if you're willing to listen, people will tell you exactly what they want. They may not directly say it. Sometimes they will, but it's like if you're willing to listen to that, your relationships will probably thrive better. I know, for example, for me I was thinking about the summertime, right? Going to the summer, I'm trying to like build this rock star life while also trying to be a good dad, right? And I was thinking of all these things I wanted to do for my boys to have fun, essentially all summer. I was like thinking of these cool plans and this and that. Every single day, they just kept asking me. They kept saying, hey, this summer, are we going to go to the gym with you in the morning? And then I'm like, oh, maybe we could go to the lake and do this, this, and this. How am I going to make that work? And I'm stressing. And then the next day they'd be like, hey, Dad, are we going to go to the gym with you this summer? And after about a week of that and me trying to make these big, grandiose plans, I was like, oh, they just want to go to the gym with me every single day. Like they didn't tell me, they just kept asking in that regard. I wonder if, especially online content, but even writing, performing, is it really that simple? Where if you observe the crowd, they're going to say like, they're going to eventually, through their questions or through their responses, they're going to show you exactly what they want if you're willing to listen, instead of forcing your plan down their throat.
And another way people are going to show you what they want is what they spend money on.
Yeah, that's true.
At the same time, it's like when you're thinking about being a band and thinking about like, you're like, how do we build an audience? And you're asking yourself questions around growth. It's like, what are people actually giving their money to? And then you observe, it's like, what's that environment like? That's what people are asking for. People are asking for, you go in this space and you'll see, and the space will tell you. And that's important to look at too.
No, that's good. Going back to really the beginning of the conversation, you talked about flexibility as well. And
flexibility.
That's one thing we've discovered. We've had so many opportunities individually and collectively as Run With It, where it's like, hey, can you guys do this thing in a week? And because we've positioned our lives to be able to be flexible, we were able to make that thing happen. And that opportunity arose. What are some things, what are some struggles for you? And what are some things you do to help out to make sure you are, flexible as an artist, to make sure that you are free to take the opportunities that do come? What's that look like for you?
Struggles that I have with it. I mean, part of just like being human. Sometimes you double book, and or sometimes you just like, you have so many things going on. It's hard to like it can be hard to fit all the work you need to do in to make sure the thing happens. But that's things you learn. You learn how to create more space for yourself, and also preparation is so key. I think preparation is one thing that's definitely helped. Preparation is very complementary to being flexible. If you prepare, with as much foresight as possible, then it'll help to be able to pivot and move in these spaces easier, while also just being open to like changes, which comes with experience. You just have to get out there. You just have to go out, do the things, experience how things happen, and see your personal reaction to situations, so you can then determine and discern what you can give energy to and what you have to like say no to. You have to kind of learn where your balance is. So I think like preparation, but also just making the decision to just go out into spaces and spend some time there over a while and see how that affects you, see how you affect the space, and then make a plan accordingly to see how that can help you in your trajectory. And hopefully the people around you too, because the growth doesn't happen alone. You can't just be focused on yourself. You also, if you find a way to lift people up as well, that's only going to add. But I think preparation, preparation and just going out experience help a lot with flexibility, because just not knowing is a struggle. Just not knowing is a struggle, but also like your personal ability to communicate with people, with things I got to work on and whatnot. But yeah,
right. When you say preparation, are you thinking how well prepared you are musically, or are you thinking like your schedule? Or
I
like,
think it just depends on whatever role you find yourself in within a particular group. Because in a group, you could just be the drummer, or you could be the drummer, you could also be the sound tech, and the whatever. And so whatever your role is, I think it's up to you to kind of, figure out how can I be prepared for this role. When you start asking yourself questions, what are my experiences and all those things. And for me, what that looked like is I was asking myself, like, all right, I'm in these positions, I'm playing drums, and if I really care to support the people that I'm working with, then me, improving myself is going to help us get to the goal we want, because we don't want to stay here in this position forever figuring it out. We want to move forward. And so if I want to help the people move forward and not waste their time, I'm going to improve on the things that I have a strength in, so I can do them efficiently, and consider other people's time, I guess. I don't
That's
know if
awesome,
that
man.
helps, but the preparation. I think the preparation just is different things depending on what you look at. So I think it's part of the practice. I think it's part of the learning and taking the time to research and seeing what's involved and what you might have to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool, man. Well, as we have been taking this songwriting journey, you got to see the previous iteration of Run With It, where it wasn't as much of a collective writing scenario per se. But then over this last year and a half, we have taken this journey, start writing together. And we actually, we have the next two songs. Night Watch comes out next month. Ghost, I think the month after that. 2 songs from our collective process. What are some of the things that what's your experience been like being part of the collective part of the writing with Run With It?
Man, I think it's been a great experience, and I've learned so much. One, I know what's happened on just like a development level for myself is just being able to, like, again, the ability to work with other people. You get to practice, like, when is it good for me to share this idea? When is it okay for me to just like take space and kind of let this idea rock? Or, you learn how to, do things and create with people, because it can be very tense. It can be frustrating. It can be all kind of things. So it's been an opportunity to, develop patience and allow other ideas to form, because you see then, they had something to offer that I would not have thought of, and it worked so
Right.
well. And so just like being able to hold space for other people to like have a say and you just not get so anxious to like about your ideas getting out there, and just like be able to let go. So it's helped with that, but it's also helped me kind of develop just my own creative muscle and see like get more confidence in what I could do and what I could add. And it's just also just been fun as well. It's fun when you create with a group of people. You see that like all these songs that come out, if you look at like people that are part of it, it's like multiple people. It takes so many people a lot of times you see to create certain things in a lot of cases. And it's just like that. I think that's maybe what music is about. Music is a unifying thing. And if we take the time to like come together and bring our different ideas and figure out how to like message, I think that's a beautiful effort. And that's like something unique people want. And we just get better at doing that. And we just repeat the process, and that creates something that you wouldn't be able to get on your own, I feel like.
Right. Referencing one of our former songs, On Your Own, that you can't make it on.
Yeah, definitely.
What would you say, as you've been developing this creative muscle, what would you say has been, or what would you say is your strengths now that you've discovered in the creative process? Like when you're in the room, what do you feel like you're best at offering when you're in that room and we're writing?
I think right now I've been focusing on simplicity and taking space. And so I just think that's what I'm trying to offer, is being able to not crowd the soundscape so much, but still deliver something powerful. So figuring out what's the, I guess, formula to accomplish that. And I think I've just really just offered that thing more than maybe anything else. Is like looking things with like, I think maybe parameters. I think adding parameters sometimes is useful for me to create, because it gets me out of old habits and it puts me in a like trying to do something new. So yeah, I would think taking space and adding parameters, but also just like the rhythm side, the drum side, trying to like apply different things rhythmically and like get outside of the rhythms we're used to, rhythms and patterns, because that thing changes the feeling. I be talking about the quarter notes so much in these rehearsals. and just appreciate something as simple as this and how effective
Yeah.
that is for people, and how like that's what so many people understand. So many people can like get this and move to this feeling. That's like the thing we can all agree upon. But once it like starts becoming more than that, that's when we got to like kind of work a little more to figure it out and put it together. So yeah, I think taking space and not crowding the soundscape so much and trying to be a reminder of that is maybe what I offer.
That's awesome. Well, and it's interesting how much, especially listening to like modern music and a lot of things coming out. That's what I'm noticing, even the mixes of how sparse things are and how simple most of the songs coming out. But there's something about as they layer those simple things that makes the song pop, that makes it really hit and connect. And I think in the past have just thrown a million things at it, where even I'm personally learning how to mix currently. And in that process already, I'm seeing how much it's more sculpting than adding. It's more just kind of scraping away. It's like,
taking things out of
let's take this frequency out, and then that allows this thing to shine. And realizing once you give everyone their space, instead of just like wall of sound, the wall of sound is just not as fun. It sounds fun. Like it sounds like it's going to be fun, but then when you actually listen to it, you're like, it's just a lot of shit happening.
Clean dynamics. You don't want things to be all muddy and messy, and so it really is a lot of just like taking away and stripping out the extra things that are like crowding the space.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's so important. I think also what's very important is just like the time as well. I think you were asking about what I learned. I think something else that just came into mind was thinking about because we do 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. and the day looks different from week to week.
Right.
But I think that window of time, when you think about how often do bands spend time together, if they can practice, it's usually once a week for, let's say, 3 hours, I guess. So you take 3 times 4, that's 12 hours in a month. Can a business survive on 12 hours? Can a business really move forward on 12 hours when you think about that? And so when I'm just like, man, we spent 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. and we did all these things, it makes me really want to go in and like also offer that up to other groups and be like, hey, like if you guys just can find a way to get more time together instead of spaced out so much, you would cover more ground. And trust me, there are things to work on. There are things to talk about. If you feel like, we've done all I can, maybe you can for the day, but there's still so much more that can be done. Maybe you're exhausted for the day, but there's definitely plenty of work. If you're just meeting for 1 hour or 2 hours each week,
Right.
I'm just saying, it might take a little longer for you to get there.
I remember when I first got married, Jenny asking, so when are you done with work? And I was like, being like an entrepreneur for so long and being like in all these different realms, I just looked at her like confused.
That's because it's a confusing question for us.
Yeah. She was confused why I was confused. I was like, I don't, never.
Yeah, there is no.
It's like I literally
like the space in the entrepreneur in the freelance space. It's like, when are you done? What do you mean? When am I done? I'm done when I'm tired.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. It got to I basically told her, it's like what our communication became, where I was like, I need you to tell me, like, hey, I want Thursday nights. This is what we're gonna do. I said, and then I'll just make sure shit stops at 6. I was like, but I mean, the work's not done. It's just on a big long list that I'll start tomorrow. It's like we literally in this world, you can just keep going.
Well.
What's that?
I mean, that's super valuable as well, because when you are in a relationship and that's also the part of things with like bands or anyone work, you're in a relationship with people. And so that's one thing I'm also learning at this moment is like, the time I use and like the feeling of just like restricting the time and whatnot, but just like learning, like you just said, hey, what I need from you is just like to let me know you need this, and this, and this, and like maybe for an entrepreneur or someone who's like used to being in this space so long, that's kind of like what it is because like apart from that, I can really just till you fall asleep. Pretty much, I got working
and we will.
Like, done.
I think we're all built that way.
And then wake up
because that's literally before. Yeah, before Jenny and I got married, I literally would get up like butt ass crack of dawn, like I do today, like I did this morning. Even though I came home late, it's like up early again, and I would literally just fall into bed after like practicing at midnight and working on some looping stuff. I remember like doing that night after night after night, you know, and it's just I loved it, and it's almost like an addiction, like a productive addiction. But yeah, it did help me to say that. And then kind of like that thing of listening. So I started seeing the things that she did value. So now I know it's like, okay, I know there's some nights this week I'm going to be gone, you know, like I'm out of town twice doing music in the next 5 days kind of deal. So that means I'm starting to look for those times, hopefully preempting even her having to ask. I'm starting to say like, oh, here's this night. And I can just make sure if I bust my ass, I'll be done by like this time. And then the rest of the night is just for her and the kids, or just for her, you know, those kind of things where you start seeing what they value and when those things are important to them.
You start creating space and time for that. and the valuable things like protecting that as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, it is that. Yeah, it is that rub. But kind of back to your point though, it's like the 12 hours a week. You know, it's like we do that 12-hour writing day. And then I know like all of us are practicing. So you start adding up those hours week to week. We're practicing on our own, or we're working on social media stuff on our own. It's like you start stacking that up. It's like if you're not doing those things, it's just not going to grow. You know, it's like Paul and I meeting with agents and what's that?
Yeah, because you don't have to be around each other all the time every week. But like,
but the reality is you got to put the time in.
Then there are other things that like can happen. I'm not going to say have to or should, but it may behoove you to like consider, you know, the space and time you have, and maybe, oh yeah, I can do a little more here, or I can yada yada here. Even if it's just like brainstorming, just sitting down, what can I think about that'll, you know, be a cool, funny little, you know, just whatever.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. But yeah, I think that is a reality that I think a lot of people get into bands because it's like, it's fun. We're hanging with our friends, which it is. Like last night at rehearsal, we were having a blast. Ryan stopped in and it's like doing pull-ups and shit while we're like, you know, practicing. Like that stuff is great. But it's like, if you want it to become a real business, you do have to approach it like, okay, what's your hours? What, you know, when are you doing this? When are you doing that? Who's, you know, how are you expanding? What's your budgets? What's your plans? All these, you know, real pieces.
Yeah. You either have that sense and, you know, have that guidance or someone to kind of help you in that way, or you find out, okay,
you find out it's not
things a little differently. Maybe I need to, hopefully it doesn't take years though. And that's the thing is like, I would like for it to not take years for people. Sometimes it's necessary because people just have to simply experience like certain things in order for them to like, in order for certain things to really click. And that's when I just, you know, I just get more in the space of like less advice given, more just be like, hey, just do these things. Just go. Because it's like at the end of the day, nothing's going to really help unless you just go out and do it. You just got to make the decision. And that's what people just like, they just be waiting. They just be waiting and sitting around a lot. It's like, man, it's definitely going to be a good thing for you to get out there and connect with people and just decide to do it and not think so much. Yeah. And that's really what it is. Music is an agent of like connecting and bringing people together. And so like, if you're going to represent that, you also need to go out and connect with people, get together and bring people together. Cause that's its superpower. Music superpower is that thing. And so that's how you can use it.
Absolutely. Well, you were talking about the brainstorming thing. and you have a new obsession, which has been really cool to see, is the 3D printing. And we've talked a lot about 3D printing, but I realized we have not discussed, where did that start? Like, how did the 3D printing thing even start for you?
For me, it started maybe a few years ago when I started hearing about 3D printers. I was like, oh, you can just make things you think of. That's pretty cool. Because I always had ideas. I've always had ideas and like things I wanted to make, but time and resource and putting energy into other things, it just never happened. And then I saw the 3D printer, and like there are things where I know it's a definite decision. Sometimes it's like immediate, sometimes it's like later on. But the 3D printer, once I saw that someone printed a drum set, I was like, this thing can really do things. And I was like, oh, this is a no-brainer to be able to have something where if you just simply come up with it in your mind, that's so wildly like valuable. That's such a huge asset to have this. Like, you have to have a 3D printer, and then all you have to do is give yourself enough time and patience to come up with something clever enough, and you come up with a thing that can change your life, because it's just like, it comes from your mind, you put out there, boom. And so like the little tags that you made, that I made, stuff like that, things you can like give to people, things that make people excited and want to like show off or like get excited about you. And or even my friend Jason, he needed a part for his door. He asked me, and I printed a little part that he put on his lock mechanism fixed. And it's just like, the applications are wild. You can use it for so many things. So it's just like, eventually everyone's going to have 3D printers. It's like going to be like the Jetsons. Why not? It'll be printing all kind of things.
Printing a car, printing up some food. So for you, it was just, you saw the opportunity, and the moment you saw that it was like legit, you're like, okay, I'm in. I got to be on this thing.
It was just like a no-brainer. It was just like, duh, this is going to help like move my life forward for sure.
That's awesome, man. I love it. I'm excited to see some of the stuff. Did that pink and black coil come in for the Run With It one?
Oh, yeah, it did.
It did? All right. Well, we not on the podcast. We'll talk about those details and see what Run With It can be printing here in a minute. But that is, it's always been cool. It's always been cool to see you're typically ahead of the game. Like, you have this skill of seeing ahead, like this is going to be a thing. So even I saw it happen with the Snapchat code, which sounds not new at all now, me saying that. But when you came up with doing the Snapchat code stickers and the t-shirts several years back, no one was doing it. And then all of a sudden, and it helped us immensely. And then all of a sudden people, of course, follow suit, which is great. But now watching you with the 3D printer, it feels very similar to that same era when you discovered the Snapchat code and how to leverage that. And now you're exploring this 3D printing thing. It's going to be cool to see how it continues to grow. Obviously helping Cat King with it, and printing drum parts and all sorts. I almost messaged you because I needed a part to my Bose speaker. It broke, and it was a pain in the ass to find a part to replace it. And there was one day where I'm like, if I cannot find this part today, I think I'm going to see if you can print this part for me.
That's what Jason did.
That's awesome, man. Well, last two questions of the podcast, landing that plane. Right now in your life, how would you define living a great life?
I think living a great life would be defined as like, figuring out how can you exist in a state where you're just like enjoying and satisfied, and you feel this sense of just like, I'm a part of something that's like really authentic for me. Finding something that feels really authentic for you, that feels like this makes me look forward to the next day. It makes me look forward to, the people I'm going to be around and who I'm interacting with. Just, I think, if you can figure out how to create that sense and create that feeling, I think that leads to, living a great life.
That's cool, man. Yeah. It seems like this theme of authenticity has kind of woven throughout the whole podcast. It's such I think honestly, in this day and age, it's an even more valuable thing
Yeah, it's
because I
so
feel like there's a
valuable,
lot of,
especially with some of this fake stuff out there.
right. And I think, I mean, it could be the same as the past and we're just seeing it more, but it does seem like there's a pressure out there for people to be inauthentic to connect. Do you feel that?
Yeah. I feel it kind of on both sides. And that's the thing. People want to connect. We're driven to connect. And it's just like the most stable pathway to connection is first, like having an authentic version of yourself in a lane where you're very passionate and feels right to you. And you're going to find people that share that same ideas and energy so you can connect with those and you satisfy that part. But then like the growth part and the like what comes next, I think that's for everyone to figure out, and just like being able to accept that we are on a journey. We don't always know, but we're willing to move forward, and with the people we're with, I think all those things definitely help.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, last question. Right now, how would you define creating great things?
Man, I think creating great things requires just one, simply committing to creating as often and as consistently as it works for you, and with the intention of like, expanding and growing and changing and being open to new ideas, incorporating things that you haven't thought of before, and just being consistent in that effort. Improve and get better and look for new ways to bring stuff together.
That's awesome. Well, obviously the people know you're in Run With It, right? So they know to go to runwithitband.net if they want to connect with us, but let them know how to connect with your other projects that you're working with.
If you want to connect to my other projects, you can find me on social media at D Cold Drums, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. I don't really be on there like that, but I'll be watching, Twitter, X, Threads. I'm just D Cold Drums. If you find that name, you'll probably find me.
That's true.
Thank you for listening to the Live and Create podcast. If you like what you heard, make sure you subscribe and leave a comment or a review.
The Live and Create podcast.